We are live.
नमस्कार मंडळी, मी प्रसाद अथणीकर, महाराष्ट्र मंडळ शिकागो 2023 चा अध्यक्ष. तुम्हा सर्वांचे आजच्या अध्यात्मपीठ सेशन मध्ये स्वागत. आज हा जो सेशन आहे तो माझ्या फारच आवडीचा आहे आणि जिव्हाळ्याचा आहे, कारण का हे माझ्या आजोळला रिलेट करतं. तर मी फार न वेळ घालता मी माधवदादा गोगावले यांना विनंती करतो की आजचं सेशन सुरू करावं.
धन्यवाद प्रसाद. नमस्कार मंडळी, आपणा सर्वांचे अध्यात्मपीठावर मी स्वागत करतो. आणि एक दोन सूचना की आपला आता रामरक्षा आपण म्हणत असतो वीकडेजला सोमवार ते शुक्रवारी संध्याकाळी 7:30 वाजता आणि शनिवार रविवारी 5 वाजता. तो कृपया त्याला जॉईन होत चला. आणि ज्यांना म्हणायचं असेल ते कृपया तुम्ही त्या लिंकवर तुमचं नाव नोंदवा, तेही चालेल. आणि दुसरं म्हणजे 12 ऑगस्टला आपण आपल्या फॉर एव्हर यंग ग्रुपचं रियुनियन करतोय. तर त्यासाठी पण ज्यांना शक्य होता येईल ते सगळेजण ऑलरेडी जवळजवळ 50 लोकांनी रजिस्टर केलंय. तर एक ते रियुनियन होईल, त्याला पण या. आणि मी पुन्हा सर्वांचे पुन्हा एकदा स्वागत करतो. आणि आज गुरुचरित्रावर आपल्यासाठी विजयाताई लेक्चर देणार आहेत. त्यासाठी मी शिल्पाला विनंती करतो की तू त्यांची ओळख करून दे. शिल्पा.
धन्यवाद माधव दादा. नमस्कार. हो, नमस्कार विजयाताई. तर मंडळी, आज गुरुचरित्रावर निरूपण ऐकण्याचा योग आपल्याला येतोय, आपल्या अध्यात्मपीठावर आलाय. तर अतिशय आनंद होतोय. आणि मी आजच्या आपल्या वक्त्या प्राध्यापिका विजयाताई नेमळेकर यांची ओळख करून देते. भौतिकशास्त्र विषयात मास्टर्स ही पदवी संपादन केल्यानंतर शासकीय महाविद्यालयात भौतिकशास्त्राच्या प्राध्यापिका म्हणून त्या कार्यरत होत्या. नेमळेकर ट्युटोरियल्स प्रायव्हेट लिमिटेड या त्यांच्या स्वतः संस्थेतूनही गेल्या 31 वर्षात 10,000 विद्यार्थी त्यांच्या हाताखालून गेलेले आहेत. हा झाला त्यांचं करिअर. आणि कलाक्षेत्रातही त्या कार्यरत आहेत. वयाच्या 12व्या वर्षापासून सरस्वती वीणेचे शास्त्रशुद्ध प्रशिक्षण त्यांनी घेतले असून शास्त्रीय आणि फ्युजन संगीताचे अनेक कार्यक्रम त्यांनी केले आहेत. सध्या आध्यात्मिक ज्ञान आणि संगीत, विशेषतः अभंग यांच्या अभ्यासात त्यांनी स्वतःला वाहून घेतले आहे. मराठी सुपरस्टार सचिन खेडेकर यांच्या हस्ते उद्घाटन झालेले नेमळेकर कला अकॅडमी त्यांनी स्थापन केली असून युट्यूब आणि फेसबुकवरही त्याचे व्हिडिओ आपल्याला बघायला मिळतात. आणि त्यामध्ये माऊलींचा हरिपाठ, संत मुक्ताबाई चरित्र, अभंग वीणा आणि गुरुचरित्र आपल्याला बघायला मिळते. तर अशा हे सुविद्य आणि अभ्यासू वक्त्या आज आपल्याला लाभल्या आहेत. तर मी पुढची सूत्र त्यांच्याकडे देते. धन्यवाद.
म्यूटवर अनम्यूट करा प्लीज.
आता येतोय का आवाज? सगळ्यांना माझा नमस्कार. मी इथे उपस्थित असले सगळ्या मान्यवरांना माझा नमस्कार करते. आणि मला एवढंच सांगायचं आहे की ही काहीतरी एक दैवी योजना आहे, ज्या कारणाने आपण सगळे इथे जोडले आहोत. खरं म्हटलं तर हे काही महिन्यापासून चाललेला एक प्रवास आहे. आणि तो गाणगापूर क्षेत्री आम्ही जाऊन तिकडे व्हिडिओज 52 अध्यायाचे व्हिडिओज आम्ही ऍक्च्युली तिकडे करून घेतले. आणि युट्यूब चॅनेल म्हणजे नेमलेकर्स कला अकॅडमीच्या युट्यूब चॅनेलवर आम्ही ते सगळे व्हिडिओज प्रत्येक दिवशी एक व्हिडिओ असा आम्ही तो टेलिकास्ट केला होता. त्याचं ऍक्च्युली समापन झालं 3 जुलैला, जेव्हा इट वॉज गुरुपौर्णिमा. आणि गुरूंप्रती सेवा हा फक्त एकच उद्देश आता माझ्या आयुष्यात आहे. तर त्या कोणत्याही माध्यमातनं मी गुरुसेवा करणार हे मी ठाम असं विचारच केला आहे. आणि त्याप्रमाणे मला गुरुही स्फुरतात, मला ते इन्स्पायर करतात. आणि त्यांचा असा एक संकल्प आहे जे ते माझ्याकडनं करून घेत आहेत. आणि मी खरोखर त्या बाबतीत मी म्हणेन की मी भाग्यवान आहे. त्यांचं असं आहे की लेट द मेसेज ऑफ द गुरु रीच ग्लोबली. आणि असं त्यांनी एक सूक्ष्म सूचना अशी पण दिली आहे की जी भाषा त्याला रेस्ट्रिक्शन्स न ठेवता आपण जी भाषा कम्युनिकेट करू शकतो, एक्सप्रेस करू शकतो आणि अ लार्जर पॉप्युलेशन कॅन अंडरस्टँड अँड लर्न अबाउट द फिलॉसॉफी ऑफ द गुरु, आपण अशा माध्यमातून लोकांपर्यंत पोहोचूया. त्याच्यामुळे हे जे काय आज मी म्हणेन इट इज द टॉपिक फॉर टुडे इज द कोर मेसेज ऑफ द गुरुचरित्र. द कोर मेसेज म्हणजे जो डेप्थ आहे, त्याचं स्पिरिच्युअल डेप्थ आहे आपल्या गुरुचरित्राचा, त्याचा जो संदेश आहे गुरूंचा, तो सगळ्यांपर्यंत पोहोचवायचा आहे. आणि त्यामुळे मी जास्त करून इंग्लिशमध्ये एक्सप्रेस करीन आणि ऑफकोर्स इन बिटवीन, कारण मराठी आणि संस्कृतला दुसरी भाषा काही तोड नाहीये, पण जेवढं शक्यतो मी आय पुट इट इन इंग्लिश. अँड this is not to be considered only as a charitra reading. It's not a parayan. It is an explanation of certain core values of the Guru Charitra. मी प्रसादजी, माधवजी या दोघांनाही मी स्पेशली थँक्स म्हणते की त्यांनी एवढे एफर्ट्स घेतले आणि आम्हाला एक संधी दिली, gave us a platform to put forth our views. So I bow down to all of you, and before I start with it, Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, श्री सरस्वती नमः, श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः, श्री सीता रामचंद्राय नमः, श्री कुलदेवताय नमः, श्री माता पिताय नमः आणि माझे यजमान श्री भूषण नेमळेकर यांना पण मी वंदन करून आजचं जे काय सेशन आहे त्याची सुरुवात करते. As I said, I will be having most of the talk in English. We talk about the Guru Charitra. This was a sacred text which was written by Saraswati Gangadhar in the 16th century, roughly around 1548. Saraswati Gangadhar happens to be the fifth in the lineage of Sayamdev Sakhare, who was a very close disciple of Shri Guru Nasir Saraswati. Sayamdev Sakhare's residence was at Kadaganji, which is near Gangapur, and this is in the Kalaburgi or the Gulbarga district as we call it in Karnataka. And the four primary disciples of Shri Guru Nasir Saraswati, out of that, one was Sayamdev Sakhare, the other three being Nandi, Narhari, and Siddha Yogi. Throughout the Guru Charitra, Siddha Yogi has got a special mention because it is he who is inspiring Saraswati Gangadhar to write about the biography of Shri Guru Nasir Saraswati. Now, before we go deep into it, let's first see some interesting things about Guru Charitra. The Shri Guru Charitra was written in Sanskrit, and it is said to be a conversation between Siddha Yogi and Saraswati Gangadhar. What had happened was, a number of times the narration by Siddha Yogi took place, and Saraswati Gangadhar, as I said, he is a fifth in the lineage of Shri Sayamdev Sakhare. He used to note it down, but it used to be 2 or 3 times that whatever they had written would get erased off, and this was very miraculous. त्यांना कळत नव्हतं की असं का होते की whatever is being written, whatever Siddha Yogi is narrating to Saraswati Gangadhar, everything is being erased off in certain portions. It was then after deep intuitive instinct that Siddha Yogi said that Saraswati Gangadhar had put his name as Gangadhar and forgot to add the title Saraswati. Now, Goddess Saraswati, as even I have here behind me, she is the Aradhya Devata of learning. And coincidentally, Saraswati goddess was the Kuladevi of the Sakhare family. So, as Gangadhar had forgotten to pay his respects to his Kuladevi, whatever was being written by him was getting erased off. And so, after Siddha Yogi instructed him, Gangadhar added the name Saraswati before it, and that is why we say Saraswati Gangadhar is the author of the Shri Guru Charitra. But Saraswati Gangadhar was so feeling a little bad that he had forgotten his Kuladev, and so as a part of his humility, he puts his name in the entire narration as Namadharak, which is a pen name. So Namadharak actually is the pen name of Saraswati Gangadhar, and it also has one more significance. Namadharak means one who holds the name. That means we all of us devotees or seekers, we hold the name of the Guru. So when we uphold the Guru's name, all of us become Namadharak. And that is why Namadharak is a very important term in the entire Sri Guru Charitra. So if you have read the Guru Charitra or you have listened to the narrations of it in the 52 videos, you would realize that each time he doesn't put his name as Saraswati Gangadhar says. He says Namadharak is talking to Sri Guru, that is Siddha Yogi. Now this continues, and the Guru Charitra has been written in Sanskrit. Now when we went to Gangapur, we realized that we need to visit Kadaganji. We had already visited it twice when our Guru had taken a yatra over there. And just to break a little off from this topic, my Guru is Sri Chaitanya Vishnu Maharaj, whose Samadhi is at Dapoli, Ratnagiri. He was there to guide us physically for 3 years of my life, that is from 1998 to 2001. He took Samadhi in 2001, which I said is at Dapoli, Ratnagiri. And further on, his Uttaradhikari, his Manas Kanya, took over, and she guided me and my entire family for 18 years of our life. All whatever we are today, materially, spiritually, is only because of the grace of both my Gurus. She also took Samadhi in 2019 at Kashi. Now, the grace of this Guru was one of the reasons why this Guru Charitra is very close to us. Now, as I said, the narration of Siddha Yogi and the conversation which we have between Siddha Yogi and Namadharak, which was documented by Saraswati Gangadhar, he had left it in his house at Kadaganji. Now, Kadaganji was a place which was a residence of the Sakhare family for generations. It was their ancestral home. And the book was written by him. And it is believed, that is what the trustees and the people who are looking after the Kadaganji Datta Mandir had told us. And this is what we have heard in the first person account. It's not that hearsay or read from somewhere. They said that the book was written by the person Saraswati Gangadhar. And one fine day, he kept it in the cellar, the underground rooms of the house then. He had kept it there, locked the house, and went away without informing anyone where he was going. Now, Saraswati Gangadhar was a bachelor, and he had no lineage after him. There is no lineage in the Sakhare family after him. Also, he had many disciples, and these disciples and devotees of Datta Guru used to sit with him, and he used to narrate the Sri Guru Charitra to them verbally from his original Sanskrit manuscript. Now, down the line, what happened was certain words were misinterpreted, misheard, because we have two things here. When someone speaks to us, there are two things. One is Shruti, that is what you hear, and second is Smriti, what you remember. So that's what we all, even in our childhood, we must have played the game called Chinese Whispers, where something is told to you, and by the time it reaches the end of the chain, the words are completely distorted. Something like that happened with the Sri Guru Charitra also. So what happened was certain words were misinterpreted, certain words were misrepresented. And also to top it all, Saraswati Gangadhar had left the place. He had gone away, possibly to Gangapur, and then from there to Kashi. And that was the end of him. No one knows further where is his Samadhi or what had happened to him. So this is about Saraswati Gangadhar that we have spoken. Now coming to Sri Guru Charitra, let us see what exactly happened to the Sri Guru Charitra for some years. As I said, the original manuscript was kept at Kadaganji, and it was in one of the rooms where nobody had any access because the house was locked. Years passed, rather decades and a century or two passed on, and the house was totally in ruins. That is what we were told. And the thing was, nobody was there to take care of the house. Nobody was there to look after it. And suddenly, one fine day, by some divine vision, certain Satpurush, certain saints felt that they had to visit this because this was the place where the original Guru Charitra was written. One of the primary saints who visited the place was Sri Vasudevananda Saraswati of Mangaon. Along with him, there were some other Satpurush too, but the one who took up the cause of restoring or renovating this ancestral home of Gangadhar Saraswati and bringing the Guru Charitra to the world was a major contribution was done by Sri Dandavati Maharaj, whose samadhi is at Gangapur. Dandavati Maharaj got a vision in his dream that this place had to be renovated and the glory of Kadaganchi had to be restored. As Gangapur is just a few kilometers from Kadaganchi, Dandavati Maharaj came here with a few of his disciples and they broke open the lock and they entered the house to find that it was in a totally ruined condition. It was in shambles. Now, what happened as a result was they decided they would clean the entire place and they searched everywhere for the Guru Charitra. They couldn't find it. One day, as they were cleaning up the walls of the house, they realized that on one particular brick wall, there was a loose brick. It was a huge brick. It was loose. It was not fitted into the wall properly. As they were just observing this, they saw that a snake slithered. There was a snake which slithered into the gap between the brick which was not fixed and the wall. It slid and it disappeared into it. That is when Dandavati Maharaj realized that this is an indication that there is something hidden behind that brick in the wall. Now, in those days, unlike what we have now, the safe deposits used to be kept in the walls itself. The shelves used to be built in the wall itself. And the bricks were used just as a door or a cover so that outsiders would not know what wealth or ornaments or money was kept inside the wall. This was one way of using a safe deposit vault in those ancient times. Now, when Dandavati Maharaj saw the snake slithering, he realized that there was a gap and that means this brick was movable. So he went and he slowly removed the brick and he saw that there was, to his surprise, he found there were the holy padukas of Sri Nrsimha Saraswati. He was so overjoyed, he felt that he had got the entire wealth of the world because the holy padukas were what Sri Guru Nrsimha Saraswati had given Sayamdev Sakhre and blessed him and his family for generations to come. He had also predicted, Sri Guru Nrsimha Saraswati had also predicted that the Guru Charitra would be written by someone from the Sakhre family. And rightly so, Saraswati Gangadhar wrote it. Now the Padukas were found, they were properly consecrated and they were worshipped upon. Now the search was for the original manuscript. They found that there was an underground cellar which was connected to the kitchen. Now the kitchen in those days is not a small place like what we have in modern times. It was called the Swaipak Ghar. So it was a ghar, an actual huge place. And adjoining that was a small cellar or a cave in which this original manuscript was kept. As it was very old, more than about 400 years back it was written, obviously it had to be protected, preserved as a heritage monument. And that is why when we went to Gangapur in the month of April, we could see the original manuscript, but from a distance, and that too it is kept in a proper glass case, because if anyone would even accidentally touch it, it would become tear to bits and pieces. Such is the age of the paper there. So these manuscripts were again revised by these saints. So Dandavati Maharaj and many more other saints visited the place. And the Guru Charitra, original version of the Guru Charitra, which is supposed to have been written at Kadaganchi, is considered the most authentic one. Now, in the meantime, the Guru Charitra had various versions by various people. And as I said, we have something called as a print devils. That is, people generally, when they represent something, they make an error. And this error changes the complete meaning, especially in language like Sanskrit or Prakrit or ancient Marathi. If a certain matra is displaced, it can change the whole context or the whole connotation of the entire sentence. Now, what happened was one very Datta devotee, a very great Datta devotee, Shri Ramchandra Krishna Kamath, who visited Kadaganji because he had done research on many versions of the Guru Charitra, and he wanted to bring the most authentic Guru Charitra for people to read so that people could benefit and learn the message of the Guru. Someone had told him that the original version is in Kadaganji. So he came to Kadaganji, and after visiting the place and seeing the original manuscript, he said, let me check if this is actually the original one or is someone making a fool out of us. So he said, let me check the 26th chapter of the Sri Guru Charitra. The 26th chapter is probably one of the longest chapters if you have read the book. And it talks about the Guru's knowledge, which is infinite, about the Vedas. And in that, there was a sentence which I would like to read. It was this sentence which changed the whole version of Guru Charitra. Now, in chapter 26, OV number 212, all the other versions, the 26, 27 Guru Charitra versions which Ramchandra Kamath had read, had a line which said, Sut Mane Shishyashi. Now here, Sut is supposed to be from the Bhagavatam, that is Suta Goswami. So he comes from the Bhagavata Sampradaya. And here it says, Suta Mane Shishyasi. That means he's talking to his disciples, is what the meaning is. But how is it possible that in the Guru Charitra, a person who is a Goswami Sampradaya talks in the Datta Sampradaya, and that too to his students? So this was something which Ramchandra Kamath was having a doubt. And that's why he said, let me check only this line. If this is corrected, that means everything is correct in this original version. So in the original version, when he looked at the same line in the chapter 26, OV number 212, it was mentioned there as Sumanta Mhanije Shishyasi. Now, in the 26th chapter, Shri Guru, I'm just giving a background of it, Shri Guru Nrsimha Saraswati talks about the Vedas. And he talks about how Veda Vyas had composed the entire Vedas, and it is so infinite, so vast, that it is given a personification, a comparison to the Mount Meru, that the knowledge of Vedas cannot be comprehended by the human brain. And that is why he divides it into 4 sections. So you have the Rigved, the Yajurved, the Samaved, and the Atharvaved given to 4 different disciples like Vaishampayan, Pail, Jaimini, and of course Sumantu gets the Atharvaved. But nowhere in the Guru Charitra, Sumantu's name is mentioned as a person who is reading this in detail. But in this original book, which was there at Kadaganji, Ramchandra Kamath found that it was mentioned as Sumanta Mhanije Shishyasi. Now here Mhanije in the ancient Marathi means Mhanavnara, one who is called. So Sumant, the name Sumantu, that is a person by the name of Sumantu, was a student of the Atharvaved. This is what is the meaning of it. So when this Ramchandra Kamath realized that there was a mistake in all the earlier 26 versions which he had read, which mentioned as Sutta Mhane, here it was Sumantu Mhanije. Mhanije means Manvanara. So when he realized that there's a complete difference in the context, that is when Ramchandra Kamath said that this is the original version, and therefore today's present, whatever we read Sri Guru Charitra, we refer to it, is supposed to be based on the original version of Saraswati Gangadhar's book, which is at Kadaganji. And all the credit of this goes to Ramchandra Kamath. So after doing a lot of research, Ramchandra Kamath gave us this book, and we are really thankful to him that he brought us the message of Sri Guru, and we could hear about the Guru's glories through this book. Now, when we talk about Sri Guru Charitra, there are some lessons which we have to learn. Now, first of all, the Guru Charitra consists of 3 sections. So just like you have the Bhagavad Gita, which has got 3 sections, which is about knowledge, karma, and bhakti. That is Jnana. 1 section is about the Jnana. 2nd is about karma, and 3rd is about bhakti. So if roughly we divide the entire 52 chapters, chapters 1 to 24 are the Jnana Kand. that is, it gives us knowledge. Chapters 25 to 37 is a karma kand, that is, what are the duties or obligations of people. And from 38 to 52 is the bhakti kand, which is supposed to be devotional. So if you see, the entire 52 chapters are divided into 3 sections. Now, in the Guru Charitra, there is a mention of the incarnations of Lord Dattatreya. All of us know Lord Dattatreya is the world guru, the guru preceptor, and he guides all of us. There are so many attributes to Lord Dattatreya. He is Maritrugami, that is, you just have to remember him with an intense devotion, and he appears in front of you in whatever form, and he solves your crisis or your difficulty. Now, Lord Dattatreya's 2 incarnations mentioned in the Guru Charitra, one is Shripad Shri Vallabh, and second is Shri Guru Nasya Saraswati. Now, if you see, the geographical locations of these saints are quite close to each other. Today we have boundaries, but then it was all akhanda. It was all together as one unified Bharat. And that is why Shripad Shri Vallabh was born, his Janmasthan is at Pithapur. And he has his physical exit from this material world at Puravpur, and that too by immersing himself in the Krishna river. Now, his period of karya, that is his entire life span, is from 1320 to 1350. Now, Shri Guru Nasya Saraswati was born at Karanza, which is near the Akola district at Maharashtra, and he ends his avatar or his incarnation at Shri Shailya, which is in Andhra Pradesh. So if you see, his period of karya was for a longer time, like if Shripad Shri Vallabh was about 30 years on this earth, Shri Guru Nasya Saraswati was about 80 years, that is from 1378 to 1459. Now, the incarnations, why do they come on earth is one question which many of us ask. Of course, we'll be talking about the different incarnations of Mahavishnu in the next session. But today we'll talk mainly about these 2 incarnations. Now, it is said that the Lord Vishnu has promised his devotees that whenever there is unrighteousness, adharma, which is taking place on earth, to save people from that crisis, he incarnates. So he incarnates when he says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. That is, whenever there is a danger to the righteousness, to the goodness of people, I incarnate. This is his promise. Further, he says, Abhyutthanam dharmasya tadatmanam shrujamyaham. That means I come there where righteousness has gone, and when people are in sorrow and they are in distress, again he says, I incarnate. Third, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam. That means when sadhu here is not sannyasis or yogis. Sadhu means people, good noble souls like you and me, who don't mean any harm to anyone. We just live our life happily, we do our duties. We don't have any malice towards anyone, and we don't have any very high unwanted gains or unfriendly gains at all in life. So such people, when they are in trouble and when they call out to me, he says, to dispel their sorrow, I incarnate. Again, the last is in that particular shloka, dharma sansthapanatthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. That means it is not only in this yuga. He says right from the first yuga, Satyug, that is Krita Yuga. Then comes the Treta, the Dwapar, and finally the Kali Yuga. In all these yugas, these eras, I incarnate only to see that righteousness is established. So this is a reason why these 2 incarnations or avatars have actually made their entry into this physical world for the benefit to bring people on the path of righteousness in so many places where we feel that there is injustice done or there is unrighteousness. These people have incarnated and shown the world the path. Now, if you see roughly, Shripad Shri Vallabh's period to Nasya Saraswati, the entire period, let's say roughly from 1316 to about 1450 or 1460, we were under a terrible influence of foreign rulers, to such an extent that people from the actual righteous path had forgotten their duties, especially the priestly class. And because they had forgotten their duties, and greed had overtaken them, or rather fear had overtaken them, out of fear so many things were done, out of greed many things were done, and therefore there was a straying of the people or the population from the mass ideology. So there was a complete, you can say, chaos as far as righteousness or dharma would go. Now here dharma is not religion. Dharma is supposed to be following the path of goodness, following the path of virtue. So here people had strayed away from that, and as a result of which there was so much of chaos. There was mass killing. There was a lot of changes in the social structure. And so to establish this back, just like how Adi Shankaracharya had done in the earlier centuries, these two avatars or incarnations of Lord Dattatreya carried for the same message. Now, coming to the various aspects in which the Guru Charitra actually is relevant to us even today after so many years. Now, if you see, most of our grantha or volumes are nothing but conversations. So one thing we need to know is nobody here preaches anything. So in none of the books, be it the Bhagavad Gita, be it even the Guru Charitra or Avdhut Gita, in so many other Ashtavakra Gita, we don't find any single person talking and saying, I am the one. There is always a conversation. And so here Guru Charitra is also a conversation. And in the flow of the conversation, we come to know so many aspects. The first aspect which I point out is the social structure. Now, in the Vedas and many other ancient scriptures, the mention of the 4 ashrams, that is, you have the Brahmacharya ashram, the Grihastha ashram, the Vanaprastha ashram, and the Sannyas ashram. These 4 ashrams were not a property of a particular religion. These were the structure of social class, so that even an individual in his life could transcend the various levels of his aging and finally come to a detachment from the world, and he starts immersing himself in the glory or in the study of spiritual books, as well as he realizes God. Because as what Ramakrishna Paramhans always says, the ultimate realization or the ultimate goal of every human being is God realization. So if it doesn't realize it in this birth, he has to keep coming back till he learns that lesson and finally realizes God. So if you see the social structure, which we talk about, the Brahmacharya ashram. Now here, if you transcend from there to the Grihastha ashram, there is a certain scientific way in which these ashrams have been devised. First of all, it is a need for the physical body. And secondly, that is when I say need, I'm talking about, let's say, in the teenage years of one's life, we have children who generally like to be with their friends. And that is why in those days, children were kept in residential schools, which were called as gurukuls. So they remained in the company of their friends and they mingled around with them. They realized how to have a teamwork, how to add up with one another. And in this way, they passed the beautiful formative years of their life in a healthy manner. The next, that is the Grihastha ashram. If you see, from the teenage comes a transition to a householder's life. Now here there is a hormonal shift in the human body. And because of those hormonal changes, the needs of the body change. The structure of the body changes externally as well as internally. As a result of which, the person has to undergo a certain process. And that process brings him into a householder's life, and that is the Grihastha ashram. As he crosses that age and comes to the Vanaprastha ashram, now here there is nothing like a Vanaprastha ashram where one has to go to a forest and dwell there. He can be at home and still cut off many things in his life. Now that's a very important aspect, because as one reaches the age of 50 and above, that is as he crosses his middle age, his wants, his needs, his desires are much less than what he has in his younger ages. And that is why a slow withdrawal from the material world or the household duties, a slow withdrawal, and be there only to advise your children or grandchildren is a main aspect of this third section of the Varnashram. The fourth one is supposed to be the Vanaprastha, the Sannyas Ashram. Sannyas Ashram is renunciation. Renunciation is giving up everything. That is, one need not be attached to anything. One has to rise above his physical passions, his sense passions, and completely devote himself only to realize God. Because as I remind again, the ultimate goal of every human is God realization. Now, this was as far as an individual structure is concerned. Now, coming to the social structure. Social structure again was devised into 4 different structures or levels. The first was supposed to be the Brahmin, that is the priestly class, whose job was mainly to read scriptures and to use their positive energies for whatever they do as offering service to the god by doing their ritualistic worship. All that was supposed to be done by the priestly class, and they were supposed to have been looked after by the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas. Now, Kshatriyas are supposed to protect the Brahmins, and the Vaishyas were supposed to offer donations to Brahmins so that they can manage a livelihood, because the structure was that not all of them may have the capacity to go out and work. So these were different sections which were given. And the last, of course, is the Shudra class, where they did those jobs which normally people would not actually dream of doing. So in fact, this class needs to be respected more. Now, one thing that has to be mentioned here throughout the Guru Charitra, Shri Guru Nrsimha Saraswati has shown a very different behavior with all these 4 classes. Now, let's take, for example, if you see the Rajak, that is a washerman, in the chapter 9, or Parbati, who is a farmer. These are people who come from the 4th strata of society. But Shri Guru had a special affection for them. He had love for them, and that is why he saw to it that when their desires were fulfilled, only then they would rise up individually on a spiritual level. So unless a man's desires are fulfilled, like you say, unless you have your stomach full, you cannot think of bhajan. First bhojan, then bhajan. So here it means that first your desires have to be fulfilled, and then only you can think of actually reaching out to God. So Shri Guru Nrsimha Saraswati's special grace was there on farmers like Parbati, the washerman Rajak, or even the man who remembered all his 7 lifetimes of being a fisherman, a boatman, and so a hunter, and finally he becomes the highest level of the human structure. So if you see, he has special grace on these people, and he wants all of them to evolve. Unfortunately, there are certain evil minds in society which kept certain class of society at that level. They didn't want them to rise up because they felt that if they would have risen up, then what would happen to us? So that is why Shri Guru Nrsimha Saraswati, as an exemplary guru, that is, by an example, he shows that all classes of people, irrespective of what gender or class or race or religion they might be, they are all supposed to have the grace of the God, and they need spiritual upliftment. Now, if you see, contrary to his affection that he showed for the 4th class or the 4th class of the structure of society, he had a different behavior with the priestly class, which was the first or the topmost class of the entire pyramid. Now, this was a Brahmin class. You'll find in many of the chapters in the Shri Guru Charitra, the Guru has been constantly reminding the Brahmin class that they had strayed away from their religious duties. So he said in one of the chapters where we have the 2 Brahmin Pandits who come to argue, to have a debate or a discussion. So when they approach the Guru, he reminds them that they are supposed to be having their profession of priesthood, learning the Vedas, and bringing up people of society to a higher level, making them more righteous, this was the main duty of the priestly class. But in the process, what had happened was they had fallen prey to the greed that these foreign rulers or their kings, the Mughal emperors, had on them. So it was monetary greed, it was greed for land or donations which were given on a large scale by these kings to them, so that they would trade their Vedas or their chanting of the Vedas or mantras for all these donations. So he reminded them that that was the bhakti and not the bhukti, which was important. So this is what Sri Guru Narasimha Saraswati does to the Brahmin class. In many of the chapters, we find that he even apprehends them, he scolds them, and he even reprimands them on certain occasions. Some he talks lovingly, because as what we know, Sama Dama Danda Bhed, that is, in different ways he tries to bring to the knowledge of these people that what they're doing is wrong. Some of them learn immediately, while some take a very long time. So if you see, the Guru's grace has been on all, and on some of them he has been a little curt, he has been a little very forthright about his intentions, because he realized that this class, the Brahmin class, was supposed to lead people towards salvation, and if they themselves have become corrupt, then there is no point in calling this as a social structure at all. Now, if you see, he also protects the business class. A very good example of that is in the chapter 10, where Vallabhesh, who is a merchant by profession, he is an ardent devotee of the Lord Dattatreya and Shripad Sri Vallabh, and he wants to come to Kuravpur, and he makes a promise that if he has a very good profit, then he would come and feed about 1,000 Brahmins at Kuravpur. And on the way, he is looted by 4 thieves, and as a result, he is even killed by one of them. But in his dying moments, he calls out to Guru. And as Guru, Datta Guru is Smartragami, one who appears when the devotee calls in distress. He appears in the form of a matted hair yogi, and he revives Vallabhesh back to life. So Vallabhesh comes to Kuravpur, and instead of 1,000, he feeds 4,000 Brahmins. So here Guru had not classified that he belongs to so-and-so profession, he doesn't deserve my grace. No, he appears in front of him also to show that the Guru does not have any inequality among any class of people. And that is how the Guru Charitra brings out the social structure of the prevalent times and what was mentioned in the scriptures also. Now, the second thing that was prevalent in those times, as we talk about foreign invaders, the practice of sati. Now, when we go through the 52 chapters of the videos, we realize that in 1 or 2 chapters, there is a mention of sati. Now, sati was a practice which was done when a woman would lose her husband, she would enter the funeral pyre along with her husband, so that she is not left back alone in society. Now, this was possibly the reason in those times was that the foreign invaders, and generally even till date we find that for any thing to happen, that is any war, the consequence of anything is always on the women and children. So women have to face the consequence of this. And they realize that when there were foreign invasions, the first attack would be on the chastity, the purity of the woman. She would be assaulted by the foreign invaders. They would kidnap women, they would mistreat them. And so to avoid this further humiliation after one's husband's death, these widows would enter into sati along with the husband. Imagine, of course, we know about Rani Padmini also of Jodhpur. And this was a practice which was prevalent only to protect the chastity of the woman, because what she would be left to face after her husband's death was something which was really condemned. Now, sati practice later on, of course, by legislation was discontinued because women got more rights and women got more respect in society. And as a result, this social structure, even the Guru never actually promoted. If you see in one of the chapters where he talks about the code of conduct for women in the chapter 31, 32, he says, if a woman is expecting a child, if she is bearing the child of a husband, and the husband dies during the process, then she should not enter sati. If the husband's body has been destroyed in an accident or in warfare, then also she should not enter sati because the body is not available. So he actually indirectly tries to tell people that sati is not a good practice. But because the social structure of those days demanded it, and it was for the safety of women, many people approved of it. Later on, it became just a blind habit, which was very correctly discontinued by our legislation. So the social structure, if you see, of sati also is something which is not correct. Now, coming to the next aspect of the Guru Charitra, the family structure. Now, if you see Sayamdev Sakhare, he meets Shri Guru thrice. Now, in the first instance when he meets, we see this in 3 different chapters. In the first instance when he meets, he talks about he introduces himself as a tehsildar in a small town of Nasik. And Shri Guru tells him to take a man who's suffering from colic stomach pain. He tells him to take him home. So that is the first meeting that Sayamdev Sakhare has with Guru. The second meeting is in the chapter 14, when Sayamdev tells Shri Guru about an impending difficulty which he is going to face at the hands of his Muslim ruler, the Muslim king. And the third, of course, is when in the chapter 40s, in one of the 40 or 41st chapter, Sayamdev gets a realization that Shri Guru is ultimately God. So if you see in the chapter 14, after Sayamdev is released from the painful death which he was supposed to or destined to have at the hands of the Mughal king, he comes to Shri Guru and thanks him, prostrates at his feet and thanks him profusely for saving his life. And he says, now I don't want to work any further. I want to be in your service. At that time, Shri Guru tells him that he has a family at Kadaganchi, at Nasik, and his basic residence is of course at Kadaganchi. But he says, you've come to Nasik, you have a family, you have wife, you have 2 children to look after. You cannot leave all of them and come to my service. See, the Guru, a true Guru, never tells you to give up your material duties. And that is what Shri Guru Narasimha Saraswati again proved as an exemplary thing, that he discouraged Sayamdev Sakhare's intention of coming to serve him. In fact, he told him that you first attend to your material duties, your householder duties, get your children settled. And after that, you can think of coming to my service. And the process will take some years, maybe 15 years. I will meet you at that time. So this assurance that the Guru gives Sayamdev Sakhare has built up that particular confidence in Sayamdev, and he looks after his family. And so the family structure was not disrupted. Now we do find in many cases today, as in Santa Muktabai's Tatiche Abhang, she mentions that there are so many fake sadhus and fake sannyasis who tell you to leave all your material things, that is your family, children, and come and serve me. And of course, these fake sannyasis or gurus or sadhus do it only because they expect something in return. They have a greed for something. But if you see Shri Guru Narasimha Saraswati, he was Lord Incarnate himself. He discouraged this and he said, first attend to your householder duties and then you can come to my service. Another thing that shows Shri Guru's bonding towards people who have a family to support is in chapter 36. Now, Shri Guru Narasimha Saraswati himself, after the age of 9 or 10, he left for Kashi to take up sannyas ashram. So he had nothing to do with the grihast ashram, but still he knew what all things can take place between a husband and wife, and that is very clearly depicted in chapter 36. In chapter 36, this wife of this Brahmin priest who does all different rituals at various houses at Gangapur, but refuses to eat food at anyone's house except his own house, the food cooked by his wife, He prefers only to eat homemade food. He doesn't want to have anything outside. But the wife has got a completely opposite temperament. And this is what we find in many families. We find that among couples, each of them has their own desire, the list of desires. And as a result of the desires not being fulfilled, not being understood by the spouse, there is a friction. And today's family structure, if you see, there are many cases where couples separate because their desires are not fulfilled. But here, Shri Guru, through this chapter 36, gives a message to all such couples that you need to understand that there is another person who's sharing their life with you. So not only are your desires of priority, but even their desires have to be taken into consideration. In this way, he amicably solves the problem between the husband and wife in chapter 36. He also talks about the code of conduct. Now here, why code of conduct is required is because when there is a discipline. Now, for example, when we go to a school as a student or a college, we have a certain disciplinary thing. Like, especially in schools, we find that we have a certain uniform to wear. We can't argue that we'll not wear this uniform. So you have a certain uniform to wear. You have to attend your school lectures at a certain time. You have got to be present for certain functions. So these are all a part of one's discipline. So why is this given to you? It is to instill that discipline in you. So that's what we call the code of conduct. Now, if you see in chapter 31, Shri Guru Narasimha Saraswati talks about the code of conduct for women, because women are the basic foundation for any society. If the woman of the house is happy, the entire household is happy. And similarly, if the women in a particular society are happy, the entire society progresses. And that's what we call a progressive society. So here he talks about the code of conduct for women, where he says women should have certain duties as a wife, as a mother. And of course, if the woman loses her husband, then what are her ways in which she should conduct or behave herself in society? Now, these are not stringent rules as what today's pseudo-feminist may say, but then it is very necessary for us to follow a certain pattern if we want to maintain a certain social structure. In chapter 37, he goes on to give the list of rules which the priestly class has to follow. Like, how do you expect a person to tell another, that is why they say in English, practice before you preach. So one needs to practice getting up early in the morning, doing his various ablutions, then again sitting down to pray or having some time spent for his spiritual or religious duties. And then he goes on with his householder work. So this code of conduct has been narrated by the Guru in chapter 37. And these two chapters, 31 and 37, therefore, are necessary because they instill discipline among people. So be it householders, be it women, all these people need to have one thing, and that is discipline, or shista as you call it. He also gives some hygiene habits. Now, when we say Guru, we normally call Guru Mauli. Now, Mauli is a word which is generally used for mother. It is not necessarily to be understood in the feminine form. When we say Mauli, it is because the maternal instinct of any person overflows in them. For instance, here, Guru tells us what are the hygiene habits. Now, these are things which had to be told to people of those times. And even today, we need to follow certain things, which, of course, fortunately, in our education system, we do have something called as community living or civic living and all that. But the hygiene habits are that one should not dirty places in public, especially those which are the source of drinking water. One should wash their hands, legs, and mouth before they sit down to eat something. One should not speak while eating. One should not, even code of manners, as to table manners, as you call it today, that one, while drinking fluids, one should not slurp the liquid or make loud sounds. Right? These are very small things, but these were instructed by the Guru in his code of conduct, which he talks about in the chapter 37. Now, why discipline is needed? As I said, because when one is disciplined and he becomes wise as an individual, he creates a disciplined and a wise society. So we have to discipline ourselves for a larger or a greater benefit. Now, coming to certain finer implications of the Sri Guru Charitra, some points we'll take up today and some possibly in the next session. The finer implications which are relevant to modern times, which are taught in many business schools, that is your business administration schools or MBA schools as we call it. Now, let's take one point here. The first one is in chapter 30, 31 and 32, where this lady, a young lady who has lost her husband due to tuberculosis, she brings him to Gangapur alive and under the hope that Sri Guru will bless her husband and give him longevity of life. But just as she reaches the outskirts of Gangapur, her husband passes away and she laments and cries. Now here, there is a yogi who comes and tells her. This yogi is none other than Sri Guru Nrsimha Saraswati himself in a different form. He sends his disciples in that form. And this yogi instructs this young girl who is just widowed and tells her certain things about the philosophy of life and death, which we will take up as a part of the philosophical aspect of the Guru Charitra. And he tells her that she has, he gives her 4 Rudraksha beads, tells her to tie 2 to her Mangal Sutra and 2 to the ears of her husband. He also tells her second instruction that she must collect the Brahmins of Gangapur and see to it that they recite the Rudra chant. And the third thing he tells her is that she should, before she enters Sati on the funeral pyre with her husband, she must go to take darshan, or she should visit Gangapur's Sangam, where Guru is present in the Saguna Roop. He says you visit him and collect the tirtha, the holy water of his feet, sprinkle it on yourself and on the dead body of your husband, and then only go into Sati. Now, this is what the instruction the yogi gives. Now, this lady follows everything, but just as she is about to enter the funeral pyre, she pauses. She waits for a moment. She says, I have forgotten something. And what she has forgotten is very crucial. She has forgotten to go and take darshan of Sri Guru before she enters Sati. Now, it's a very important aspect. And she remembers it at that moment when everything is ready for a husband to have his pyre lit. So she begs pardon of all the Brahmins there. She says she will be back in a few moments, and she runs to the Sangam and she takes darshan of Sri Guru, and her whole life undergoes a transit, a complete change, because Sri Guru blesses her with Sumangali, that is Saubhagyavati, that is she will remain a married woman till the end of her life, that is her husband will outlive her. And she feels amused because her husband is already dead. So Guru says, my word, my commitment is not going to go waste. And so what he does is he tells his disciples to bring the dead body of that man, and he sprinkles his holy water on him, and the man is revived back to life. Now, this is a miracle. As again I said, miracles also is one more aspect of the Guru Charitra, which we'll take up. But here, fortunately for this woman, before she went on to the funeral pyre, she paused. She stopped and she thought about something. Now, just like how it is said that musibaton mein hosh or jallosh mein josh kabhi khona nahi chahiye. That is, when you are in distress, do not panic. Do not get completely flustered or confused. Keep calm, think. The next step will automatically reveal itself to you. And when you are extremely excited, you should show that excitement or that exuberance. That time, don't try to smother or cover your excitement. So one should see to it that when one is in trouble, one should not panic. And today, your business management schools teach you something called as distress management and panic management or disaster management. So these are all things which already the Guru has told us. The only thing we need to do is we need to pick out those small precious gems and learn about them more in detail. So a pause is required when you are in distress. This woman was in distress. She was going to lose her husband forever, but he could be revived back to life because she paused before entering the funeral pyre. This pause is what we also call in Marathi as Simhavalokan. That is, if you see a lion walking majestically It is called the king of the jungle only because, not because of its style of walking, but only because after walking a few steps, it stops, turns back, and reviews the path that it has walked. This is called Simhavalokan, and that is what one should always do in life. When you reach a certain level in life, it is necessary for you to stop there, pause there, turn back and see what you have done, whether you have made some mistakes. And today that's what you call as a SWOT analysis in business schools. So you should know your strengths, weakness, and how you're going to overcome them. So this is what is the importance of the pause, which I would say is one of the finer implication of the Sri Guru Charitra from chapter 30, 31, and 32. Another aspect is the debate and discussion, which takes place today in many news channels as well as in boardroom meetings. Now, if you see chapter 26, 27, and 28, where these two learned pandits who have come from the king's rule, that is, they come from the king's court and they want people around to give them a certificate that they are the most learned people in the entire town of Bidar. These two people, when they come to Trivikram Bharati, he is very learned, otherwise he would not be a disciple of Narasimha Saraswati at all. But he does not display his knowledge or wisdom. He humbly requests these two conceited pandits. He tells them that you will not be able to argue because I have no knowledge about all this. So if you want to have a debate, I'm not the right person, but there is somebody who is much superior, and that person is my Guru, Sri Guru Narasimha Saraswati. I can take you to them. And if he says that you two are really learned, he says, and I will give you the certificate then and there. Now, when these two pandits, out of conceit and ego, they said, yes, come on, we'll go. And then they come in their entire paraphernalia of so many people. They come to Sri Guru Narasimha Saraswati's abode at Sangam. They don't even prostrate at the feet of the Guru. They're so conceited. So ego blinds one. At that time, Sri Guru tells them not to have any debates because certain scriptures or Vedas are not topics to be debated about. They are not topics, or scriptures are not made for you to have a bartering, a trading. These are supposed to be for your own self-development and for you to guide others if you have developed yourself. So here, let's see what is the difference between debate and discussion, which the Guru explains to them in a very humble way, in spite of being the most learned of all. Now, in a debate, what exactly happens is we prove who is right. Whereas in a discussion, we prove what is right. So there is a difference between proving who is right and what is right. So a discussion can be had because there is a necessity for a platform where you can exchange your views, and we need to accept others' viewpoints also. So discussion is always welcome, but debate, he says, is a futile exercise. It's worthless because it only raises your ego, and ultimately you start making the individual greater than the topic. So this is what Sri Guru tells us about a debate and a discussion. He says an argument or a debate, or vad as you call it, it reveals only half the truth because it is only one-sided or one-faceted. Whereas a discussion is generally a teamwork. That is, many people together put forth their views. There is an exchange of views, and it is so, you can say discussion is all inclusive. And discussion should be done. This is what Sri Guru tells these two pandits also, that you can discuss only if you have full knowledge about it. Now, these two pandits claim that they know all the Vedas, whereas Sri Guru Narasimha Saraswati says that the Vedas are so vast that even Bharadwaj Rishi or Vedavyas, these people also could not comprehend. So where are you and me, he says. He includes himself also. In spite of that, these two pandits say, no, we are supposed the most learned, we know all the Vedas. And that is why Sri Guru has to prove to them that their knowledge is very, very limited, or rather very hollow. So discussion, if it is going to be inclusive, and if one has full knowledge, only then it should be done. Otherwise, it should be completely avoided. If one doesn't have knowledge about anything, one should truthfully confess that he is ignorant about the topic. And this is what chapters 25, 26, 27 tell us. Sri Guru Narasimha Saraswati also talks about the Vedas in this. And as the two conceited Brahmins are not ready to listen, he proves it by an example. See, when a person does not understand that he is ignorant and still argues about it, that displays more ignorance about him. Now here, these two Pandits, saw a certain spectacle which the Guru exhibited in front of them. What he did was, he called an ordinary bypasser, a person who was a farmer. He called him and he said that I'm going to make you transcend 7 different lines and your 7 different lifetimes, therefore you will remember. He does that by smearing some vibhuti or ash, sacred ash on that man, that poor farmer. And he tells his disciple to draw 7 different lines. As the man transcends each line, he remembers all his past lives. And when he crosses the 7th line, he remembers that he was a Brahmin who was a very learned scholar, but because of his conceit and ego, he had come down to the level of what he is today. So here, Guru brings about 2 things to us. One, he tells us that everything is karmic. And secondly, he proves to those 2 learned Pandits that conceit, ignorance, and half knowledge about something is very dangerous, not only for oneself, but even for society. Now, a very important thing, which I would say is the 3rd point, which all business school teachers should know, is the tip that Saraswati, Guru Nrsimha Saraswati tells us, and that is to identify the potential of our students. Now let's see what are the chapters in which students are concerned. If you see in chapter 2 of the Guru Charitra, there is this Sandeepak who is taken to test by his Guru, Vedadharma. Now, the levels of test that Sandeepak has to undergo are just like how we have different levels of a reality show on TV today. So we find that these levels of test have to be transcended if you need to achieve the best. Like you see in certain quiz shows, you have different levels. And then only when you cross the last level, the final level, which is very tough, the questions are very tough for it, then you get a super prize bumper money. Now here, Sandeepak is being put to test. And his Guru tells him that he is afflicted by leprosy, and for that he has to go to Kashi, and he asks if any of the students are ready to come along with him, where he can atone for his sins by bearing all of it in this lifetime itself. And of the large number of students who are there, Sandeepak becomes ready to accompany his Guru to Kashi. And here Sandeepak has to face a young boy, young child. And he has to face so many things, which even we as grown-ups find it difficult, because somewhere down the line, we have a limit of tolerance. But here, the Guru tests Sandeepak, and not only the Guru, but even God tests him. Now, here, Sandeepak's steadfastness, that is how he sticks to his word, his commitment to his Guru, that he is going to take care of him. The greed points, the things which Shiva Shankar or Vishnu put forth to him as something which he can be lured into, he's attracted to. But that also, he passes that test, doesn't fall prey to the greed which is offered by both these great divine celestial beings. He also does not talk any ill about his Guru, in spite of his Guru throwing things on him or hitting him mercilessly or shouting at him on a daily basis, to an extent that even Sandeepak doesn't get food for some days. Now, what does this show? That his commitment to his Guru is to such a great extent that he has forgotten his sense passions. That is, what are his needs as a child, as a body, what are his physical attachments, all this is forgotten. His only focus is on Guru Seva. So these are various tests which Sandeepak has to undergo. And finally, he gets the grace of not only the Guru, but even Shiva Shankar and Mahavishnu. Another chapter, that is chapter 16, talks about 3 students here, and they are Aruni, Vaid, and Upamanyu. Now, if you see, the test that the Guru gives each of them is different. Like It's not like today's examination system where you have one paper and all students have to appear for it, irrespective of whether they are good in that particular subject or not. Here, the guru gives different tests for different students, knowing very well their gunas or qualities. Now, if you see, Aruni was a student or a disciple who had the sattva guna in him. And that is why when there was this water body which had completely devastated or was going waste and his paddy fields were not getting properly irrigated, he put himself as a barrier to see that the water irrigated his paddy fields. So if you see, Aruni had the sattva guna in him and the guru treated him or blessed him accordingly. The second student was Baid, who had the raja guna in him. Now he, as you must have seen in the chapter, he brings the bullock cart, he draws it, and even if the bullock is not able to pull it, he says, I will do it. And in this way, he wants to show his guru that he is something, and that passion to desire to show that guru that he is one of the best students, that shows his Raja guna. Raja is supposed to be mainly for passion or desire. Of course, not in a wrong way. It is required because we all need to have desires or passion. Others is nothing to look forward to in life. The third thing is about the student Upamanyu, who has the Tamaguna. Now, when the description of Upamanyu itself is given in the Guru Charitra, it shows that he is a well-fed and a little lazy kind of a boy. And this is the Tamaguna in us. That is when you don't want to work, when we have a lot of laziness, a slothiness, sleeping all the time. So this is the guna that Upamanyu has, and how each of the time the guru gives him a test. This boy doesn't disobey his guru. He follows his guru's instruction in spite of having the tamaguna in him. That is a guna which is supposed to be negative. But in spite of that, he doesn't go against his guru's word. He follows his guru's instructions, but each time he tries to overcome that with his own individual ideas. Finally, the guru realizes that this boy also has got some qualities, and so he blesses him accordingly. So if you see, the true teacher identifies the potential of his student. So which student has what potential, only a teacher can identify, and that is why they're called teachers, because they guide the children or the students on that path. Now coming to the chapter 42, which again talks of one more disciple, that is Twashta Kumar. Twashta Kumar's journey to Kashi is a very important part of the Guru Charitra, because it tells us about the ways in which one can reach Kashi. And there is a complete roadmap to it, which the directions are given by none other than Shiva Shankar, that is Lord Vishweshwarnath. Now here, the Guru gives Twashta Kumar certain things. He says, I want these things for my house. His daughter asks for something, his son asks for something, his wife asks for something. So if you see, the Guru and the family members have a list of demands from Twashta Kumar, and they say that when you go to Kashi, you get all these things for us and return back. Now here, the yatra to Kashi is guided. Now here, Twashta Kumar is a little confused initially, but then the Guru himself comes in the form of Shiva Shankar, and he guides this child to Kashi. Not only does he make him do the Kashi Yatra, but he also makes it possible for him to bring all those things which the Guru and the family members demanded. So what it shows here is a Guru would not have made such a demand, because a Guru for Twashta Kumar is a Manas Putra of Brahma. So obviously his Guru is going to be someone who is at a much higher pedestal. So when the Guru puts these demands, it's not that the Guru wants these material things. He wants to see whether this child is using his capacity to the fullest or not. And when he comes back successfully from Kashi with all the things that the family demanded, the Guru blesses him. So here, these are finer nuances of the Guru Charitra. There are many more things which we need to talk about, but we'll do that in the next session. If there is anything any one of you want to ask, you may please do so. Madhavji?
Yeah, just a minute. Rekhatai,
हाँ.
मग आपण नंतर प्रश्नोत्तर घेऊ.
या करते हाँ खूपच छान झालं विजयाताई.
Thank
इतकं
you.
तुम्ही सुंदर म्हणजे प्रत्येक चॅप्टर उलगडून दाखवलात. ब्राह्मणांनी चातुर्वर्ण्यांचं त्यांनी कसं वागायचं, नवरा बायकोनी कसं वागायचं, ब्राह्मणांनी कसं वागायचं, स्टुडंट्स बद्दल म्हणजे स्टुडंट कसे असतात आणि त्याच्याप्रमाणे टीचर्सनी कसं वागायचं, प्रत्येक चॅप्टरचं तुम्ही इतकं सुंदर उलगडून दाखवलं गुरुचरित्रातल्या.
धन्यवाद धन्यवाद.
खरोखरच तुमचे किती धन्यवाद तुम्हाला द्यायचे ते समजत नाहीये, म्हणजे शब्दात सांगता येत नाहीये. पण खूपच छान झालं, खूप छान, अगदी त्याला काही तोडच नाहीये. इतक्या सुंदर शब्दात
धन्यवाद.
मी तरी कधी गुरुचरित्र ऐकलं नव्हतं. फार वेळा मी काही वाचलं नाहीये, त्यामुळे मला त्यातली खूप हे माहिती नव्हती. पण आज खूपच छान कळलं. त्याच्याबद्दल तुमचे अगदी मनापासून धन्यवाद.
धन्यवाद रेखाताई.
महाराष्ट्र मंडळाचे पहिल्यांदा धन्यवाद, कारण त्यांनी आम्हाला हा प्लॅटफॉर्म ओपन करून दिला. प्रसाद अथणीकर, मला वाटतं आता आहे का माहित नाही, पण त्यांची ही आयडिया की तुम्हाला बोलायला सांगायचं गुरुचरित्रावरती, म्हणून त्यांचे आभार. आमची तांत्रिक मांत्रिक टीम आम्ही म्हणतो त्याला, म्हणजे सगळे IT ग्रुप, ते
हा.
नसतील तर आपलं काही होणारच नाही. एवढ्या लांबून तुम्ही आमच्याशी हा संवाद साधूच शकणार नाही. मला
बरोबर.
त्यांचे आभार.
त्यांचे
आणि
आभार खरंच.
आणि मुख्य म्हणजे आपले श्रोते, ते नसतील तर म्हणजे वक्त्याला बोलणार कोणाजवळ.
बरोबर आहे,
त्यामुळे
बरोबर.
श्रोत्यांचेही आभार. खूपच छान
त्यांच्याकडनंच
झालं.
ऊर्जा मिळते आपल्याला. बरोबर.
त्यांच्यामुळे ऊर्जा मिळते. खरंय, अगदी खरंय. आणि आमचे आयोजक सगळे माधवदादा तर आमचे लीडरच आहेत. उर्मिला दामले, अनिरुद्ध दामले, शिल्पा देशपांडे, सगळेजण खूपच मेहनत घेतात प्रत्येक प्रोग्राम करण्यासाठी. तेव्हा त्यांचेही आभार. आणि कार्यक्रम खरोखरच खूप छान झाला. आणि मी आता उर्मिलाकडे देते. उर्मिला.
सॉरी. आज खरंच धन्यवाद रेखाताई. तुम्ही म्हणालात ते अगदी खरं आहे की जो हाचा कार्यक्रम झाला तो फार काही गुरुचरित्राबद्दल ज्यांना माहिती नसेल त्यांच्यासाठी खरंच हा आजचा खूपच इंट्रोडक्टरी, आणि हे सगळं ऐकताना मला खरंच असं वाटत होतं की आपली ही जी युथ आहे मंडळी, जी लहान मुलं आहेत, त्यांना सुद्धा खरं हे ऐकवायला हवं. कारण की जर त्यांच्यापर्यंत ही गोष्ट इंग्रजी भाषेमुळे खूप लवकर आणि छान त्यांच्यापर्यंत ही पोहोचू शकते असंही म्हणजे वाटत होतं. सो खूप खूप धन्यवाद विजयताई. आपण आता शांती मंत्र म्हणूयात. आणि आजच्या
मला एक प्रश्न आहे.
होय प्रकाश. हा बोला.
नाही, त्यांचं भाषण आणखी हे सगळं व्यवस्थित झालं, चांगलंच झालं म्हणजे. पण मला एक गोष्ट प्रकर्षाने खटकली, ती म्हणजे त्यांनी लॉर्ड हा शब्द का वापरतात मला कळलं नाही. म्हणजे भगवान प्रभू हे वापरण्याऐवजी लॉर्ड वापरणं म्हणजे मला तरी खूप खटकलं. त्याचं काही ते एक्सप्लेनेशन देऊ शकतील सर?
नाही, मी सुरुवातीलाच म्हणाले तसं संस्कृत किंवा प्राकृत किंवा मराठी भाषेत जे काय आहे ते शब्द आपण इंग्लिशमध्ये 90% आपण ट्रान्सलेट करू शकतो. आणि खरं म्हटलं तर लँग्वेज ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन हे जास्त महत्वाचं आहे. तो शब्द जरी लॉर्ड म्हणून आपण ह्याच्यात म्हणतो, प्रभू, भगवान, आणि हे सगळे जे आहेत दीज आर ऑल एक्सेप्टेड वर्ड्स इन इंग्लिश. पण जनरली काय होतं की फ्लो मध्ये आपण म्हणताना इट बिकम्स लॉर्ड, बट दॅट हॅज गॉट नथिंग डिमिनिंग. म्हणजे लॉर्ड म्हटल्यामुळे काय त्या देवाचं काहीतरी महत्व कमी होणार आहे किंवा काही वेगळं होणार आहे असं काहीच नाहीये, कारण आपल्या भावना सगळ्यांचे सारखेच.
नाही, कुणी किती जरी कमी दाखवायचा प्रश्न केला तरी ते काही कमी होत नाही. म्हणजे देव हा त्या ठिकाणी श्रेष्ठच आहे. फक्त लॉर्ड हा शब्द वापरणं इतकं खटकतं की म्हणजे तुमच्यासारख्या म्हणजे इतक्या विद्वान बाईंनी लॉर्ड हा शब्द वापरणं मला खूप खटकलं. त्यामुळे सॉरी मी म्हणतोय, पण
नाही नो प्रॉब्लेम. कारण काय दॅट्स व्हॉट ना, नाही मी मान्य करते तुमचं. मी तेच तुम्हाला सुरुवातीलाच बोलले की काही शब्द जे आहे ते 100% ट्रान्सलेशन मध्ये येऊ शकत नाही. आणि हा शब्द जो आहे,
पण भगवान किंवा प्रभू किंवा देव
नाही, तेच तुम्हाला सांगते की इन द फ्लो इट्स नॉट नथिंग टू डू पॉलिटिकली विथ एनिथिंग. इट्स जस्ट द फ्लो ऑफ द वर्ड, द फ्लो ऑफ द लँग्वेज. त्याच्यामध्ये जेव्हा शब्द येतो तेव्हा, कारण आपण जे वाचतो ते दॅट रिमेन्स इन आवर मेमरी, आणि त्या अनुषंगाने ते होतं. पण याचा अर्थ असं नाही की लॉर्ड म्हटल्याबरोबर त्या देवाला किंवा प्रभूंना किंवा भगवान आपण जे म्हणतो त्यांना एकदम त्यांनी आक्षेप घेतला असं काही नाही. बिकॉज अल्टिमेटली वी आर आन्सरेबल टू दॅट सुप्रीम एनर्जी. आपण काय आपले मनातले जे काय फॅसेट्स आहेत आपण तयार करून ठेवतो एक लिमिटेड, हे की मला हे आवडलं किंवा हे आवडलं नाही, हे ड्युअलिटीचा भाग आहे. पण खरं म्हटलं तर आपली भावना जी आहे ते फार महत्वाचं. त्याच्यामुळे रिच्युअलिस्टिक
त्या भावनेच्या याच्यातच म्हणलं मी की ते लॉर्ड शब्द खूप खटकतो. दुसरी गोष्ट की तुमच्या फ्लो ऑफ दी लँग्वेज तुम्ही जे बोलताय त्यात तुम्ही बाकीचे मराठी शब्द वापरता, मग वाय नॉट लॉर्ड का अवॉइड करू शकत?
व्हेन आय से फ्लो ऑफ द लँग्वेज, बोलतानाच ते ऑटोमॅटिक तो शब्द निघतो बाहेर. इट्स नॉट दॅट आय एम टॉकिंग इट, इट कम्स आउट विथ द फ्लो. आय एम नॉट सेइंग की आय एम स्पेसिफिकली इंजिनिअरिंग दॅट वर्ड, की मला हा शब्द वापरायचे कारण मला कोणाला तरी त्याला हर्ट करायचे किंवा कोणाला तरी त्याच्याबद्दल हे. इट्स नॉट दॅट ॲट ऑल. इट इज जस्ट द फ्लो. म्हणजे आपण जेव्हा बोलतो तेव्हा फ्लो मध्ये काही शब्द येतात. लाईक मुंबईमध्ये असं असतं की आपण बोलताना एक भाषा बोलत नाही. सो वी स्पीक इन मराठी, इंग्लिश, हिंदी, आणि मग ते बंबईया हिंदी, तर इट कम्स ॲज अ फ्लो. तर त्याच्या आय थिंक वन शुडंट गिव्ह टू मच इम्पॉर्टन्स टू दॅट वर्ड. आणि तुम्हाला ते खटकलं तर दॅट आय मीन वी नीड टू वर्क ऑन दॅट. कारण काय असतं, मी तुम्हाला एक आय मीन प्लीज डोंट फील बॅड. एक सी इफ देर इज अ व्हाईट स्क्रीन अँड देर इज स्मॉल ब्लॅक डॉट, आपलं लक्ष नेहमी त्या ब्लॅक डॉट वरच जातं, त्या व्हाईट स्क्रीनवर का नाही जात? सो इफ यू सी दॅट यू नो ओके यू कॅन ऑलवेज हॅव युअर ओन ओपिनियन्स, पण त्याच्यामुळे खटकणं हा जो तुम्ही म्हणाला तो शब्द मला खटकला ऍक्च्युअली. कारण काय माहितीये, कारण इट वॉज नॉट इंटेन्शनली डन. म्हणजे हे काय ब्रिटिश रूलमुळे आपण लॉर्ड माउंटबॅटन किंवा असं नाहीये. द लॉर्ड्स वर्ड इज फॉर द सुप्रीम एनर्जी. सो अल्टिमेटली व्हॉट वी फील, आपलं डिवोशन जे आहे ते जर गुरूंनी आणि त्या प्रभूंनी किंवा भगवान किंवा देव त्यांनी मान्य करून घेतलं, देन इट्स आय थिंक दॅट इज व्हॉट वी ऑल शुड बी आन्सरेबल टू.
जास्त लास्ट जाता म्हणणं की तुम्ही इतके वेळा तुम्ही हे भाषण दिलं असेल किंवा काय प्रवचन केलं असेल इंग्लिश मधून, म्हणजे हे काय पहिल्यांदा नाहीये, तुम्ही बरीच केलेली आहेत. तर त्या ह्याच्यातनं तुम्ही प्रत्येक वेळेला जर तुम्ही लॉर्ड म्हणण्याची ऐवजी जर भगवान म्हणला असाल किंवा प्रभू म्हणला असाल तर ते ऑटोमॅटिकली तुमचा तो प्रश्न म्हणजे तो शब्द वगळला गेला असता आणि वापरला गेला असता प्रॉपर. हे माझं म्हणणं.
दॅट इज व्हॉट आय एम सेइंग ना, ते फ्लो ऑफ द लँग्वेज. हा, कारण टू टेल यू व्हेरी ऑनेस्टली, हे पहिल्यांदाच मला असं कोणतरी म्हणालंय की देर इज, त्यांना असं ह्या शब्दाचा त्यांना जरा आक्षेप आहे. पण इट वॉज नेव्हर देअर इन अर्लियर. कितीतरी माझे प्रवचन किंवा भाषणं झाली आहेत. Nobody ever pointed out these things, and this is the first time someone has pointed out. I'll work on it. पण मी प्रॉमिस करू शकत नाही की मी पुढच्या वेळेला जेव्हा बोलेन तेव्हा मी लॉर्ड हा शब्द वापरणार नाही. नॉट फॉर आउट ऑफ एनिथिंग, पण ते एक मेमरीमध्ये सेट होऊन जातं. सो आय ट्राय कॉन्शियसली टू डू इट, पण ते व्हॉट कम्स नॅचरल इज नॅचरल. आय विल नॉट बी एबल टू प्रॉमिस यू एनिथिंग, बट आय विल डेफिनेटली टेक नोट ऑफ इट.
नाही, सर्टनली प्रकाश काका, पॉइंट नोटेड. कारण की तुम्ही एवढ्या आपुलकीने आणि एवढ्या हक्काने त्यांना हे मनातलं तुमचे बोलला आहात, दॅट इट सेल्फ शोज की आपण जस्ट हे करायला नाही, पण जे आहे मनात ते खरं बोलून दाखवण्याकरता पण, आणि त्यांच्याही भावना पूर्णपणे विजेते तुमच्याही भावना आमच्यापर्यंत पोहोचल्या आहेत की वी गेट द पॉइंट. पण आजपर्यंत तुम्हाला कोणी मे बी हे नोट नसेल करून दिलं, पण प्रकाश काका म्हणाले तसं की नक्कीच आय नो दॅट यू विल थिंक अबाउट इट नाव दॅट. आणि आम्हालाही कळतंय की तुम्ही हे मुद्दामून नाही केलं. इट्स जस्ट अ फ्लो ऑफ लँग्वेज.
पण जस्ट ॲज अ स्मॉल, मला त्याच्यात ऍक्च्युली आय मीन वॉज इट सो बॅड की लॉर्ड हा शब्द वापरल्यामुळे सगळं जे काय निरूपण होतं ते त्याच्यामध्ये गालबोट झाले?
अजिबातच नाही. नथिंग रॉंग, जस्ट दॅट खूप आत्मीयतेने मे बी त्यांनी हे तुमच्यापर्यंत पोहोचवायचा प्रयत्न केलेला आहे. तो तुम्ही पण नक्कीच विचार कराल त्याच्यावर, मला खात्री आहे.
त्यांच्याशी
नाही, मी पहिल्यांदाच म्हटलं की ते झालं, इतकं खरंच चांगलं झालंय. फक्त तो शब्द मला खटकला म्हणून तेवढं सांगितलं, बाकी नथिंग एल्स.
या उर्मिला, मला बोलायचंय. उल्का बोलते.
हो हो बोल.
नमस्कार विजयाताई.
नमस्कार.
मी उल्का नगरकर, शिकागोवरनं. भूषणजी तुमच्या बाजूला बसलेत का?
हो हो इथेच आहे.
हा, कारण दहिसरचे आहेत ना भूषणजी, ते कनेक्ट झाले होते सुरुवातीला.
जी 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 जी
जेव्हा तुम्ही आधीचे आपण तुमचे व्हिडिओ शेअर केले होते तेव्हा.
बरोबर. हो हो.
छान झालं तुमचं प्रवचन. आणि बेसिकली मला प्रश्न होता तुमच्यासाठी, आणि ऍक्च्युली माझा प्रश्न वेगळा होता, पण बिकॉज प्रकाश काकांचा मुद्दा बराच लांबला म्हणून माझ्या एकदम लक्षात आलं की ऑल माहिती शब्द पण एक आहे आपल्याकडे, जो आपण म्हणू शकतो. आपण बरेच वेळा इन्स्टेड ऑफ सेइंग गॉड आपण ऑल माहिती म्हणतो. तर मे बी इफ यू वॉन्ट टू, तुमच्या याच्यात तुम्हाला फ्लो मध्ये जर तो सूट होत असेल आणि बसत असेल तर. पण माझा तो प्रश्न नव्हता. माझा प्रश्न वेगळा आहे की मी देखील आज पहिल्यांदा ऐकलं गुरुचरित्र, जे तुम्ही आता सांगितलं ते. आणि त्यातल्या शेवटच्या ज्या शिष्यांच्या कथा होत्या की अरुणी किंवा उपमन्यू, तर मला समहाव आठवत आहे की आम्ही लहानपणी शाळेत असताना गुरुपौर्णिमेच्या कार्यक्रमाला आम्हाला शाळेमध्ये ना स्पर्धा ठेवायचे, एकतर कथाकथन किंवा संतांच्या गोष्टी सांगा किंवा अशा. तर मला आठवत आहे की आम्ही ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी तेव्हा सांगायचो, गुरु आणि शिष्याच्या कथा म्हणून. पण मला तेव्हा हे माहित नव्हतं की त्या गुरुचरित्रातल्या कथा आहेत, असं हे माहिती नव्हतं तेव्हा. ते आज कळलं मला, आज आत्ता, की त्या अरुणीची कथा किंवा हे तुम्ही म्हणाल्यानंतर म्हटलं अरे आता आपण सांगायचो लहानपणी. पण मग असं, आणि तुम्ही स्वतःच याच्यावर आता प्रवचन दिलं, तर मग नेहमी असं का सांगतात की बायकांनी गुरुचरित्र वाचू नये म्हणून?
हा एक सेन्सिटिव्ह टॉपिक आहे. तर खरं म्हटलं तर गुरुचरित्र इज फॉर एव्हरीवन. असं काही नाहीये की अमक्यानेच वाचलं पाहिजे किंवा काय. ऍज अ से इट्स अ व्हेरी सेन्सिटिव्ह टॉपिक, आणि त्याच्यामध्ये दे शुड नॉट बी एनी कॉन्ट्रोवर्सीज अगेन बिकॉज ऑफ दॅट. पण माझं असं स्पष्ट मत आहे की कीपिंग ऑल द सँक्टिटी, म्हणजे जे काय आपलं प्युरिटी आपण ठेवतो ते सगळं ठेवून, इफ यू रीड दिस इज फॉर पीपल, दिस इज. आणि कुठेही गुरुचरित्रामध्ये असं कुठेही उल्लेख नाहीये की स्त्रियांनी वाचायचं नाही किंवा अमक्यांनी वाचायचं, असं काही नाहीये. इट इज सर्टन रिच्युअल्स विच ह्युमन बीइंग्स हॅव मेड. अँड ॲज अ सेड ना की एक सोशल स्ट्रक्चर मध्ये लोकांनी घडवलेले काही नियम आहेत विच आर विदिन अ सर्टन फॉर्मॅट, आणि त्याच्यामध्ये तुम्हाला फिट व्हायचंय. सो दिस वॉज केप्ट फॉर दॅट. सेकंड रिझन इज women have certain physical issues for certain days of the month where they're not able to maintain themselves because of their health reasons. म्हणजे तो जेव्हा आपण गुरुचरित्र वाचतो तो एक डेली वाचन म्हणून ठेवलं पाहिजे. इट्स नॉट टू बी डन ॲज अ 3 day 7 day. म्हणजे गुरुचरित्रामध्ये स्वतः म्हटलेलं आहे खूप महान विभूतींनी की हे चरित्र रोजच्या रोज तुम्ही वाचलं पाहिजे, कारण दिस इज हाऊ इट विल चेंज युअर कॅरेक्टर, इट विल चेंज युअर वे ऑफ थिंकिंग. नाहीतर काय होईल, इट्स जस्ट अ सायक्लिक रिडिंग. एक फॉर्मल आपण म्हणतो ना, एक काहीतरी मी करून दाखवलं, जगाला दाखवलं मी याचं पारायण एवढ्या वेळा केलं, पण त्याच्यात तुम्ही ऍक्च्युली शिकलात काय हे महत्वाचं आहे. तर स्त्रियांसाठी काय होतं, ऍज सर्टन डेज ऑफ द मंथ दे आर नॉट एबल टू बी फिजिकली सो वेल. तो कधी कधी बायकांना एवढा त्रास होतो की ते खंड पडू शकतं. त्या कारणाने असं सांगितलं की गुरुचरित्र तेव्हा तुम्ही वाचू नका. But it is said, like I've heard from very, very renowned saints, ki if the girl child has not attained her puberty, kiva after her menopause, then she can read it. There is no harm at all in reading the Guru Charitra. मध्ये का नको, कारण स्त्रियांना तो मध्ये ब्रेक येऊ शकतो आणि त्याच्यामुळे तुमचं वाचनाचं जे कंटिन्युटी आहे that may lose its impact or effect on you. कारण हे गुरूंचं चरित्र आहे, ह्याच्यात काही कोड ऑफ कॉन्डक्ट जे दिलंय ते पाळून तुम्ही जर केलं तर इट इज रिअली वेल अँड गुड. असं वाचायचं नाही हे रूल काही लोकांनी केलेले. सर्टन सेक्शन ऑफ सोसायटी हॅज मेड दिस एज अ रूल, आणि त्यांच्या त्या कर्मठपणामुळे बऱ्याच गोष्टी ऍक्च्युली आजही सोसायटीमध्ये आपल्याला बघायला मिळतात. सो समवेअर द गुरुज मेसेज इज ब्रेक दोज रिच्युअल्स, ब्रेक दोज थिंग्स, डू इट. आणि स्त्रियांनी वाचायलाच पाहिजे, कारण वाचन ऑफ द गुरुचरित्र इज सपोज टू बी, इट इज अ 5th वेदा. तर आपण वेदा का नाही करू शकत? वाय शुड वी चॅन्ट इट? सो दिस इज व्हेरी नेसेसरी. आणि प्रत्येकाच्या आयुष्यात हे एक इम्पॉर्टंट ग्रंथ आहे. स्पेशली आपल्याला तर गुरुमाऊलींनी मराठीमध्ये दिलंय, प्राकृतमध्ये आहे, संस्कृतमध्ये आहे. अँड नाव ऑफकोर्स गुरुचरित्र इज ट्रान्सलेटेड इन टू व्हेरियस लँग्वेजेस आणि ग्लोबल रीच साठी इट इज इंग्लिश. तर त्याच्यामुळे गुरुचरित्र ऑल ऑफ अस कॅन रीड, फक्त कीपिंग इन माइंड द सँक्टिटी अँड द प्युरिटी ऑफ दोज डेज ऑफ द मंथ. दॅट्स इट.
आणि त्याच्या अगोदर असं काही असतं का की चटईवर झोपायला पाहिजे आणि असं काही त्याचे
तेच म्हणते ना, हे सगळे रिच्युअल्स आहेत, हे सगळे व्हेरी रिजिड रिच्युअल्स विच इफ यू आस्क मी पर्सनली आय डोंट बिलीव्ह इन ऑल दिस. म्हणजे असं काही नाहीये, फक्त एक श्रद्धा भक्ती हे मेन इम्पॉर्टंट, ह्या दोन इम्पॉर्टंट क्रायटेरिया आहेत. म्हणजे आपल्या मनात जर डिवोशन आहे तर असं म्हणतात की एखादं जंगली फ्लावर ऑल्सो यू कॅन ऑफर इट टू दी टू मे बी कृष्णा और एनीवन एल्स. ही विल नॉट से की मला हेच पाहिजे आणि मला त्याच कलरचं पाहिजे फूल, किंवा हे रिजिड आपण करून ठेवलेलं आहे, माणसांनी केलेले रूल्स आहेत. अँड आय डोंट बिलीव्ह इन ह्युमन मेड रूल्स. वी शुड डू वॉट अवर स्पिरिट टेल्स अस, अ सोल टेल्स अस, अँड दॅट्स हाऊ वी कनेक्ट टू हिम. तर दॅट इज व्हॉट इज मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टंट, की आपली जी कनेक्टिव्हिटी विथ द सुप्रीम एनर्जी आहे, that is what you're answerable to. You're not answerable to any human being at all. This is my experience and my final verdict on this also.
पण छान झालं आजचं सेशन, खूप छान झालं. आणि मग उर्मिला म्हणाली त्या पॉइंटला मी ऍग्री करते की लहान मुलांना पण हे खरी सेशन, आणि ह्या इंग्लिशमध्ये एवढे छान फ्लुएंट बोलतात, तर मे बी लहान मुलांसाठी जर कधी सेशन ठेवू शकलो तर दॅट्स अ रिअल गुड आयडिया ऍक्च्युली. व्हेरी नाईस.
उलका आम्ही बोलत होतो अगोदरच, तर मुलांसाठी त्यांचं निश्चितच चांगलं होईल. पाहू आपण आता जे काय आपले युथ ग्रुपचे आहेत त्यांच्याबरोबर बोलू आणि तसं करू आपण.
जी.
आपण अजून कोणाला काही प्रश्न आहेत का मंडळी?
नाही, मला एक आता उल्का जे म्हणाली की बायकांनी वाचायचं नाही असं होतं, पण हा नियम काही मागच्या 50-70 वर्षात केलेला नाहीये का? त्याच्या आधी बायकांना लिहाय वाचायला शिकवतच नव्हते. म्हणजे मग हा नियम केव्हा केला गेला? रिसेंटली केला गेला असणार आहे ना, की बायकांनी वाचू नये असं.
बरोबर.
हा, कारण जेव्हा लिहिलं गेलं तेव्हा तर बायका वाचतच नव्हत्या, त्यांना कोणी
ऍक्च्युली तेवढे त्यांचं शिक्षण पण तेवढं झालं नव्हतं की दे कुड रीड. मग तुम्ही म्हणते अगदी बरोबर आहे. हो,
हा, पण म्हणजे असा नियम करायचं कारणच काही नव्हतं खरं.
बरोबर आहे. आणि ते ऍक्च्युली ऍज मी तुम्हाला आता बोलले,
सॉरी, या बोला.
इट इज इंडिव्हिज्युअल प्रेरोगेटिव्ह. म्हणजे यू आर आन्सरेबल टू युअर कॉन्शियन्स. तुम्हाला जर वाटत असेल की यू वॉन्ट टू रीड इट, तुमची जेवढी आर्तता आहे, भक्ती आहे, इच्छा आहे, तर मला नाही वाटत एनीवन कॅन स्टॉप यू, और एनीवन शुड स्टॉप यू ऑल्सो. तुम्ही काय सांगत होता मॅम?
हा, नाही, मला म्हणजे हेच म्हणायचं होतं की काही भाग म्हणजे बायकांनाही त्याचा त्रास होतो. द व्हायब्रेशन्स दॅट यू गेट वाईल रीडिंग गुरुचरित्र और वेद, कुठलेही वेदोक्त तुम्ही जेव्हा उच्चार करता तेव्हा त्या उच्चाराला इट्स नॉट जस्ट एनी वर्ड्स पुट टुगेदर, इट हॅज अ व्हेरी डीप मिनिंग टू इट, आणि दोज व्हायब्रेशन्स आर नॉट गुड फॉर युअर ओन बॉडी, अँड दॅट्स व्हाय यू आर नॉट सपोज टू चॅन्ट देम. सो ते करण्यामागेही काही सायंटिफिक रिझन्सच आहेत. माझी आजी स्वतः गुरुचरित्र वाचायची आफ्टर शी वॉज एबल टू, म्हणजे आफ्टर हर मेनोपॉज शी स्टार्टेड रीडिंग दॅट, आणि मग ते माझ्या वडिलांनी पुढे नेलं. सो देर आर सर्टन रूल्स विच आर मेड फॉर युअर ओन बेनिफिट, विच अनफॉर्च्युनेटली वर नॉट पुट इन फ्रंट ऑफ अस इन अ राईट वे. म्हणजे त्याला कुठली तरी चाली रूढ, म्हणजे रूढ ही परंपरा आणि चालीरीतींच्या नावाने ते तुमच्या समोर आले असले तरी सुद्धा दे होल्ड सम सायंटिफिक व्हॅल्यूज टू इट आणि सम सायंटिफिक रिझन बिहाइंड इट विच वी शुड ऑनर, असं मला वाटतं. इट्स माय पर्स्पेक्टिव्ह ऑफकोर्स. आणि ते सांभाळून जर तुम्ही केलं तर तुम्ही म्हणालात तसं की शेवट यू आर कनेक्टिंग द सोल टू द सुप्रीम. सो वन्स यू डू दॅट, once you're not a body, when you feel you're the Atma, then nothing beholds you. But until and unless you reach that stage, I think we all should honor the.
As far as you said about chanting of mantras during those days, I perfectly agree with you. कारण मंत्र चॅन्टिंग मध्ये देर इज अ सर्टन रिदम, देर इज अ सर्टन वे इन विच इट हॅज टू बी डन, अँड दॅट कॉजेस व्हायब्रेशन्स which disturb our body vibrations during those 5 days of the month. So that is totally agreed. But barring women totally from reading certain biographies of saints is something which I feel that तुम्ही म्हणाला तसं ते काय काय नंतर ते they zeroed down, they snowballed into a ritualistic tradition किंवा म्हणाला तसं ते it is a certain thing which came in the last 70 years तसंही असू शकतं. Yeah.
ऍब्सोल्युटली. आणि काय होतं की आपण खूप ब्लँकली ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी फॉलो करत येतो, पण आपल्याला कळत नाही की का करतोय. सो वन्स वी नो हे का करतोय आपण, इट शुड नॉट बी अ प्रॉब्लेम. म्हणजे बाकीचं आपल्याला भरपूर काही आहे वाचायला.
बरोबर.
वाय नॉट, म्हणजे वाय टू अननेसेसरीली कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट म्हणजे ज्या आपल्या परंपरा आहेत ते आपण ऑनर केल्या पाहिजे, याही मताची मी आहे. पण certainly when the soul meets the supreme, you are no more the body.
Correct.
Right? So until you reach that stage, you have to, एक पायऱ्या आपण म्हणतो ना, उड्या मारत मारत नाही चढायचं आपल्याला.
एलिव्हेटरनी पण जाऊ शकत नाही, आपल्याला स्टेप बाय स्टेप.
एक्झॅक्टली. इफ यू गो स्टेप बाय स्टेप, यू गेट द फुल बेनिफिट्स ऑफ इट. सो until and unless you reach that stage, म्हणजे इट्स बेटर टू गो स्टेप बाय स्टेप.
करेक्ट करेक्ट.
तसं आपण म्हणतो ना की त्या म्हणजे निर्गुणाकडे पण सगुणापासूनच सुरू करतो आपण जाणं. जेव्हा आपण सगुण भक्ती करतो तेव्हाच निर्गुण भक्ती करू शकतो आपण. सो ती स्टेज सरपास न करता
आपापल्या लेवल ऑफ स्पिरिच्युअल इव्होल्युशन मध्ये आहे. सो वी हॅव टू रिस्पेक्ट एव्हरीथिंग, अँड ॲज व्हॉट वी सेड की डिस्कशन मेक्स इट हेल्दियर, नॉट अ डिबेट.
सो आय शुड ऍक्च्युअली थँक प्रकाश काका की त्यांनी खरंच हे, म्हणजे जस्ट नॉट फॉर द सेक ऑफ इट, पण जर आपल्याला कुठले प्रश्न पडले तर ते नक्कीच आपण बोलून एक हेल्दी डिस्कशन करायला पाहिजे या मताचे. म्हणजे खरं इट्स अ गुड थिंग टू हॅव अ हेल्दी डिस्कशन. राईट. बट थँक यू सो मच. इट वॉज व्हेरी एनलाइटिंग सेशन. आणि नक्कीच आपण हे युथ पर्यंत कसं पोहोचवू शकू याचा विचार करू नक्कीच. इट विल बी आवर प्लेजर टू हॅव यू फॉर अवर युथ टीम एज वेल. इथे जे पुढची पिढी इथे वाढते त्यांच्यासाठी हे खरंच खूप आवश्यक आहे, त्यांच्यापर्यंत हे पोहोचणं. नक्कीच. आपण मंडळी, अजून कोणाला काही प्रश्न नसतील किंवा काही बोलायचं नसेल तर आपण शांती मंत्र म्हणूया आणि आजच्या या सेशनची सांगता करूयात. ओके. ओम सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते, पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. ओम शांति शांति शांति. हरिः ओम. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरिः ओम. ओम श्री कृष्ण.